I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can everybody join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Get a pillow? Oh. You have a crisis.
Oh, God. She needs a pillow.
Ed,
Am I on tape?
You're always on tape. The people are watching.
Ed, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
It's good to see your smiling face.
What's in the water up here?
Is looking at
We
you.
just had strawberry shortcake.
yeah.
Birthday
That's
celebrations.
Just what this crew needed was more sugar.
Yeah.
Okay. You all set now? All right, I'm sorry. First thing I have the minutes of the Selectmen's Workshop, which occurred, oh, wait a minute. We tonight, earlier, had a non-public session, and that was under 91A32A, personnel, C, tax matter, and E, legal. And I make a motion, we seal those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That out of the way. We have the minutes of the Selectmen's work session, which occurred on Monday, June 26th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye, Bob.
I'm going away.
We have the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting, which occurred on Monday, June 26th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On, yeah, I've got to show up public input, but there's no public here. Do you have anything, Connie? Ed, go ahead. Sorry.
Two things. I wanted to talk about the section 21-J:35, which is the property tax rate. RSA, and this is in regards to campers and your issue with having to abate so many campers that were not registered.
Okay.
The reading I'm getting from speaking to many people in other towns, DRA, etc., is that this change in the law is relatively new, and that we shouldn't jump to try to change this again until some time has passed to let this work through, let towns begin to address the issue of following the law the way it is. So the general reading is to keep working to make sure that the campgrounds understand that they don't have the responsibility, but they still have responsibilities to the town when collecting this tax by making sure they're registered, etc. So it's my opinion that we just need to let some time pass with this.
Are other towns having the same issue?
They are, but they're saying that it has gotten better.
Okay.
And they've opened up some communications with the campgrounds to clarify and to make this law work better. So the only thing I would think to do, which is to maybe gather all the towns, have a meeting with them, because obviously the more communication, the better. Because I think it'll help everybody if they can work this through.
Okay.
Because you don't want to jump and change the law again, and then it's now everybody, it takes a while to get everybody on the same page.
Okay.
The second issue is last meeting, it was mentioned that, this is in regards to the regional planning commissions. The planning board voted not to pay dues to the regional planning commission, and it needed explanation because there was something in the newspaper recently that stated that Brad Harriman, who serves as the chair on the Lakes Region Technical Advisory Committee, or Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, would lose his voting privileges. It has to be explained the difference between the state-established regional planning commissions under RSA 36 and what a metropolitan planning organization and or a rural planning commission is. So they're two separate things, and it can be very confusing. But a regional planning commission that was created by that RSA, specifically by state statute, has to do a comprehensive master plan for the development of the region. It has to do a housing needs assessment. It has to do a comprehensive plan and development for the region. It has to create a comprehensive economic development strategy. It also has the authority to review developments of regional impact. That Regional Planning Commission, by state statute 3649, states that if you don't pay dues to this municipality, if you don't pay dues to this RPC, you would lose your voting rights in that area. The MPO is a metropolitan planning organization. All the 9 regional planning commissions, if they have a population above 50,000, are a federally mandated metropolitan planning organization. I said on camera that I don't lose my vote because I was talking about Stratford Regional Planning Commission, which is a federally created metropolitan planning organization. Under that MPO, not the Regional Planning Commission, under the MPO, there's a policy committee and a technical advisory committee. If by federal statute federal statute 23 U.S. Code 134-135, which stipulates that if the states receive federal money, you must have, under Federal Highway Act, you must have a MPO created in order to get proper public input for projects that happen via transportation issues. This is what Brad serves on. But Lakes Region, being a non-MPO, is functioning under slightly different rules. All the larger MPOs stipulates by federal law, 1 community, 1 vote. So I don't know how they would deny him a vote on the MPO side of what the overlapping responsibilities are of the Regional Planning Commission. I spoke to one of the Governor Council's counselors, Joe Kenny, and he's going to have me speak at the next GASSET meeting, which is the Governor's Advisory Council on Intermodal Transportation, and I'm going to bring this situation up because the state states here that if you're a metropolitan planning organization, which is above 50,000, or a rural regional planning commission, which Lakes Region would be, you still have to function under the 23 U.S. Code sections 134, 135. So they basically have to function like an MPO. So that he should not be denied his vote. When I told the governor's counselor that he was going to be denied his vote for Ossipee not paying their dues, they were a little shocked. Because when you're working with a 10-year plan, you need input. And by state law, you have to have input. So he really shouldn't lose his membership on that. So he should be able to continue to vote to bring Ossipee the money and set priorities for the transportation projects throughout this area. So this needs definite clarification. And I don't know if there's any other rural regional planning commissions that have the same bylaws. But Lakes Region's bylaws actually state that if you're not a dues-paying member, you lose your voting rights. So there's a conflict there. If you go to Stratford Regional Planning Commission, which I'm on their Technical Advisory Committee or Transportation Advisory Committee, and I'm on their Policy Committee, which is the MPO, I have 1 vote. We have 2 people that go, but we still have 1 vote because they're functioning under the federal law. So I don't know why this is being treated differently, and it needs to be clarified because you don't want to be denied the input for regional transportation projects just because you're not paying dues. And lastly, I know this is a lot of talking, but lastly, the The 28A issue. RSA 28A states that the state cannot create a law that forces a town to expend money. It's not allowed to do that. So I would love to know how RSA 36:49 states failure upon any community or county to pay its proportionate annual share of the cost determined by the Regional Planning Commission shall constitute a termination of such municipalities' vote. I don't know how you're doing, I don't know how the state's doing that. I don't know how this political subdivision can force upon the towns to forcibly pay dues. I just don't know how they're doing it. That needs to be addressed. So the two things that need to be addressed is Lakes Region a rural planning commission, and are they gonna have to correct their bylaws, and the 28A issue?
The other thing is, by statute, I mean, in this case, it was our planning board who voted not to pay membership dues to Lakes Region Planning Commission. I'm not looking to second guess their vote or to read anything into that, but it was our planning board who voted not to do that. Is the agreement between the Lakes Region Planning Commission and the town of Ossipee via the planning board? Or is it between the Board of Selectmen and the Lakes Region Planning Commission?
I believe it's between the town of Ossipee, because that's where his invoice, the annual dues are invoiced. And it's always been a part of the planning board's budget because of,
Well, certainly, I mean, I can see where the money would be a planning issue. But the other part of this whole thing that I'm not necessarily willing to weigh in on yet is it appropriate for the planning board to make the decision not to be a member, which they can choose not to cooperate or participate or all of those things? Or is it, if I read the statute correctly, is it a case where the town of Ossipee, which would mean this board, is mandated to be a member currently?
That's confusing to people, because everyone by state statute, every town becomes a member automatically.
Okay.
It's dues paying member is the different term that needs to be used. If you don't pay dues, you're not a dues paying member, but you are already a member of the Regional Planning Commission. That's what I said before.
Okay, so then what do you get by paying dues that you don't get by not paying dues?
Well, if you pay dues, you get to vote on the comprehensive master plan of the region. You get to vote on a comprehensive plan for the development of the region within its jurisdiction. You get to vote and vote for the comprehensive economic development policies, and you get to be a voting member on a regional impact committee that's created. So the regional planning commissions do something different, and the overlapping responsibilities are the MPOs and everything else that the feds and the state work on for transportation projects, so they're separate. And to answer your question about the dues and which governmental unit of the town is responsible for it, Brookfield doesn't pay dues. The planning board votes to not pay dues. But the selectmen basically just sign off that they agree they're not going to pay dues. But I believe the elected sub-political organization, which is the planning board, since they're elected, if they were appointed, it would be you, but they're elected. You actually cannot tell them what to do because they're separately elected. So I would think it's up to the planning board, because it's in their budget to expend the money, correct? It's in your budget. It's not in your budget. They control their budget. The town has voted to give them that budget. They have control over it. But you have a sign off or something.
We have oversight.
You have oversight, because the the Stratford Regional Planning Commission sends a letter to the planning board asking for their annual dues. We refuse, but the selectmen also get a letter stating that they're signing off saying they're not going to do it. And that letter is just so the Regional Planning Commission has a record that the town has decided not to do it. Now, somebody could put in a warrant article, and the town could vote, we wish to appropriate the money for that Regional Planning Commission. And I would assume that would override what the planning board does. But I don't know. Has there been a warrant article that states that you will pay money to the SRP, the Lakes Region?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, that would be the only way I could see it being done. But I would still challenge the two things, which is the 28A issue. I don't know why they're doing that. Now, it also says, and I wanted to mention this. Oh, it says, this is the statute, RSA 36. It says, "The Regional Planning Commission shall make a good faith effort to inform and respond to their local communities regarding the purpose and progress of their work in developing the regional development plan." My question is, does anybody from the Regional Planning Commission that you're supposed to be a member of informing you of their work?
We get an annual report that we publish in our town report every year.
That's about the extent of it. I mean, I don't believe anybody's ever come through the door from Lakes Region Planning and,
No, and well, the other part of that, I did have a conversation with Jeff Hayes, the executive director, on Friday, and he was questioning the non-payment, and I said, I don't have a whole lot of information other than what has been passed through from the planning board. He's planning on attending the next planning board meeting to answer any questions about their involvement, but that was one of the things that he stated, is that they provide the town every year with whatever regional projects they've completed that impact our town and surrounding communities. He also said that they have a lot of involvement with the household hazardous waste program that we partake in here in the town,
we
in
pay for
addition
that.
to the transportation.
Yeah, we also pay for that.
Right.
Now, that's a
exactly.
contract you have with them,
Correct.
the hazardous waste
Correct.
collection. So that has nothing to do with your
Really
dues. Does any of the dues payment assist in the payment for that hazardous waste, or is that a completely separate?
It's completely separate.
So it was said in the newspaper, no offense to the reporter, that you're going to lose, or it was intimated you're going to lose your hazardous waste day, that you're going to lose your vote on the technical advisory committee. I just don't think that's the reality.
Where did that come from?
I believe,
Was that in discussion during the planning board meeting? Okay.
that's what Jeffrey said.
Okay.
Well, that's what she said.
How many towns in the state don't pay it? Do you know?
I don't know, but there's, I can't, what I've learned already is you can't just talk right off the top of your head. I have to make sure I know what the
But there's,
exact fact.
there's
There's a
two or
lot.
there's more than two?
Oh, there's a lot more. In this region, Wakefield doesn't pay dues, Brookfield doesn't pay dues, Alton doesn't pay dues, and I know there's a larger, I don't know if it's the city of Dover or Portsmouth. I know Portsmouth does. There's one very large place.
So we
that-
haven't done something out of the ordinary? Other towns don't do it either?
No, and and honestly, being on Stratford Regional, my main thing with Stratford Regional is that they actually do a pretty good job communicating with the towns. I'm not familiar with Lakes Region to the degree, because we really, at Stratford, try to get people involved. I just don't think you should have to be forced to pay for this. If this is so important, you should want to pay for it.
Does the money go to salaries, do you know?
Most of the money that comes into the regional planning commissions is from the federal government. The rest is membership dues, which is a small amount of their budget, and contracted services. So if you were a big city that you needed a lot of maps and a lot of studies, you would pay for that. Or if you're a member, you get it for free. But like Dover or Rochester, they pay, tens of thousands of dollars for their dues. So that's what they get for it. But I would think that, Brookfield we can't afford to pay $700. I don't speak for the entire board, but we don't feel we can afford. We only pay $700 or $820, I think it is, per annual fee. But yours was $4,800.
Yeah,
42.
42.
It's on
That's
some
a lot of
smaller
money.
communities, that's a lot of money. That's.
But I don't understand where that money goes. That's what I don't get. Is it come right back to Ossipee, or is it spread out through everybody? Is our money going everywhere else?
No, your money would be to do the items I listed in the beginning of my comment for this region.
For the region.
For the Lakes Region Planning Commission jurisdiction.
The region is.
Correct. And to say, now I don't know I don't have the newspaper article in front of me, but I believe it said that you lose the seat at the table. Well, Stratford doesn't do that. Even if you're not dues-paying members, they want you to come to the meeting. And you can deliberate, talk, you're just not going to vote, but you're there talking while you're deliberating. So how could it be that the director of the regional, Lakes Region Planning Commission can say you're going to lose the seat at the table? What is he going to do, tell you to go home? You didn't pay your dues, go home? I don't think it's very positive. gotta watch.
Great.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's
Hey,
my
Joy.
very long public comment. But it had to be answered because the newspaper article was not very much detailed to what the state law says, and it needs to be clarified.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would just like to note that Jeff Hayes did suggest that if you wanted him to attend a selectmen's meeting to answer any questions, I suggested that you start with the planning board since they're the ones that,
I think it would be fine to start with the planning board, but I certainly would invite him to come here. Well, it's gonna get taped and broadcast all the way, so I guess we'll do the planning board first and see how that goes and see if it answers any questions.
Can I get a copy of what you have?
Now, these are my notes, and they're copy and paste from all the different.
Do you want it back?
No.
Okay, we have a check voucher total. This is for batch accounts payable for 6/24 in the amount of $124,339.44. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a payroll and reimbursement request in the amount of $4,113.92. This is for water and sewer. Make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a separate voucher in the amount of $75,100 even. This is for the second half payments to the various organizations which are funded through the town.
first half payments.
Excuse me?
It's the first half.
First half.
installment.
Okay? Make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And this is a voucher in the amount of $49,239.44. Why is this separate, Ellen?
I believe that should be part of when they're not stapled together.
Somehow they get all separated this
That's
way.
why.
But this
So
is an
that
account.
should all be enveloped into that 124,339.44.
Okay, we'll make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Somehow they didn't get put together this week. We have a request for abatement. This is on map 60, lot 9. The original assessment was $68,000. Revised assessment is $30,900. Results in a refund or abatement of $801.74. Assessor recommends we grant it. This is on land only. Performed a site visit to the property, although there's existing development on both sides of this property. He does not think that this particular property is unbuildable. However, due to the steep topography and narrow shape of the property, is likely a difficult site to develop with high development costs. Make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is another check. Let me read that. This is the quarterly federal tax return for employers. Which only gets me to sign it. I make a motion to sign it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This is a instruction to our tax collector that we begin the deeding process on 3 additional properties. Map 257, lot 8, map 133, lot 37, map 245, lot 5. Make a motion to sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a request for abatement. This is map 46, lot 34. Original assessment is $668,300. Our assessor recommends that we deny any abatement. The taxpayer has not responded to 2 written requests for an inspection of the property. Therefore, no information relative to the value of the property could be ascertained other than the current listing data. I make a motion we deny it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This This is a request for abatement. This is map 242, lot 23. The assessment's $136,500. The assessor recommends that we deny any abatement. The taxpayer has not responded to 2 written requests for an inspection of the property. And I make a motion we deny it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This is a request for abatement on map 60, lot 4 and 5. The original assessment on lot 4 was $101,600. The revised assessment is $97,600, difference of $4,000. And on lot 5, the original assessment was $17,800. The revised assessment is $16,200, for a difference of $1,600, which would, between the two of them, would result in a refund or abatement of $121.02. Performed a complete inspection to visit the property. The inside of this cabin is very rustic and unfinished. Did an additional adjustment for that. Picked up a deck which had not previously been assessed, and the vacant lot, which is lot 5, is assessed for a building lot adjusted for topography and access. Make a motion we approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
This is a request for abatement, map 17, lot 1. This is a original assessment of $6,600. Revised assessment is 0. Refund or abatement of $142. This is one of those ones we were talking about. It's an RV. It was not there as of April 1 and therefore not taxable. I'll make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. This is a request for abatement, map 17, lot 1. Original assessment was $7,000, revised assessment is $1,100. Results in a refund or abatement of $127.50.
Is there a sublot on
Excuse me?
that? Is there a sublot on that? It's the same house.
Sublot C04.
Thank you.
This is a RV located at a campground. Unit was registered as of April 1. Make a motion we approve it. All in favor? We have a request for abatement. This is on Agape Ministries, map 38, lot 5. Original assessment was $360,500. The revised assessment is $358,900. Difference of $1,600. A refund or abatement of $34.58. Our assessor recommends that they grant this, and this is a grant the exemption. As you already know, just because the entity has a 501c3 status doesn't alone qualify it for the New Hampshire property tax exemption. The mission of this charity is to assist people in need. As part of their obligation to perform that mission in order to get resources from the USDA, they are required to provide the food pantry service. In my opinion, this would cause the food pantry portion of the property to be exempt. I am recommending prorating the building to exempt the 26 by 29 section that is dedicated to the food pantry. I've created a separate card noted as exempt. In 2016, the assessment changed because there were some added items to the property noted in the outbuilding section of the assessment. With that, I make a motion we approve it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We got an intent to cut wood. This is on map 17, lot 10, Newman Brew Road, 23 acres. The owner is Lee Hobbs-Steege. Jesse Duplin is the logger. The taxes have been paid. I make a motion we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a form that we have to file every year with the Department of Revenue Administration, and it's just attesting that we will not be using the PA 28 form in 2018, which is the inventory form that we no longer don't and haven't used for some time. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a water and sewer warrant instructing our tax collector to collect a total of $88,214.88. I make a motion to sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have another intent to cut wood. This is on map 243, lot 2, and on map 244, lot 1. It's 100 acres. The owner is Eastern Materials LLC. Greenleaf Products Incorporated is the logger. The taxes have been paid. I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have 4 companies who were given the opportunity to bid on replacing the floor here in the gymnasium. 4 companies to return with an estimate was Sprague Flooring, whose estimate was $30,057. Carter Flooring, which was $29,762. Heckman's Flooring, which was $18,930. And Tinker's Flooring, which was $24,800. Heckman's Flooring was the lowest bidder, and this is from Steve McConaughey. He recommends that we go with them on the floor. Heckman's has done work for the town. Isn't that the one that just did the floors down at the town garage?
Town garage and the rec
In
department.
the rec department. We were all satisfied with their work.
Yes.
I make a motion that we pursue a contract with Heckman's Flooring in the amount of $18,930.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a temporary event outdoor application. This is from OCC. This is for the parade and fair, which is going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what the delay was, but it finally made its way up through all of the different departments.
Ambulance company.
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a notice here by way of announcement, the Get Wild program at the Sumner Brook on July 8th. It's a 5th annual Get Wild at Sumner Brook. They have the kids fishing and live animal exhibit. It's here in the folder if anybody'd like to.
Very good program. People ought to go. Very, very good program.
We have a copy of the watershed news, which is here from Green Mountain Conservation. It's here in the folder if anybody'd like to look at it.
That's the ordinance.
We have a letter from Kelly McLean. She's the admissions counselor for the New Hampshire Job Corps, introducing herself and asking that we post this, which I see no reason why we can't post this out on the bulletin board. We have a copy of a letter. It's an alteration of terrain permit for the Department of Environmental Services there. It's for the Ossipee self-storage. Yeah. We have a shoreline permit notification from the State of New Hampshire Interdepartment Communication. This is on the DOT, which is going to be replacing a storm catch basin and pipe on Route 16B. It's here if anybody would like to look at it. We have a notice from Carter Communications talking about a couple of the channel changes. While I'm on that subject, we are still trying to pursue expanding cable TV. We are in negotiations on a new contract, and we're going to try to get some outside help as to what we can do to force the cable company to expand the service. We have the Highway Department work log, which is here if anybody'd like to look at it. We have our investment policy, which we have not changed other than it's been updated to the correct signature lines. This is an investment policy which we reworked about 2 years ago now, Ellen, I think. It's one that we're required to do each and every year. We reviewed it. There are no need for changes. The auditors, I believe, were satisfied with our investment policy. And I'm going to make a motion that we re-adopt our investment policy this date.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Couple of additional water and sewer warrants. This one is for the tax collector to collect $4,242. I make a motion to sign. All in favor? Aye. We have a water and sewer warrant for the tax collector to collect $40. I make a motion to sign. All in favor? Aye. We have a request for abatement. This is on water and sewer. It's to abate the sewer charge for the sprinkler system, 17 Multonville Road. That's going to be OCC?
No, it's the Main Street Park.
Main Street Park, okay. The sprinkler system, last reading, it appears we use about 4,000 gallons of water, so that we're asking them to abate $38.16 in sewage charges, since it certainly didn't go in the sewer. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we have the check voucher totals for the water department for week ending June 30th, in the amount of $9,438.39. Make a motion we sign. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Old business. The Valley Road Bridge, has that been?
It's complete.
It's complete
Complete.
and reopened? The road's reopened?
Yep.
Good. The Water and Sewer Department rules and regulations, and I quite frankly confess, I did not get a chance to read them this week. I'd like to put that off one more week, but I don't think it's anything that pressing that we can't do next week. We talked a little about the taxation of unregistered campers. I have dilapidated buildings on there. Have we heard any
I'm
update from
still
the?
waiting for an update on the Danville Road property.
Okay. Any other old business?
I did want to just note that Steve has sent a letter, a certified letter to the Woonsock Village property owner that has the camper, just to find out what's going on
Okay.
with it.
Okay. New business, anything? No? Okay. Public input. Ed?
Just for the record, I just wanted to, I mentioned before, this is about the Regional Planning Commissions. I mentioned the RSA 28A, but it's an article in our Constitution, and I just want to read it real quickly, it's short. The state shall not mandate or assign any new, expanded, or modified programs or responsibilities to any political subdivision in such a way as to necessitate additional local expenditures by the political subdivision unless such programs or responsibilities are fully funded by the state, or unless such programs or responsibilities are approved for funding by a vote of the local legislative body of the political subdivision. The local legislative body are the people. So this tells me, just from my interpretation, that the local legislative body has to vote to expend money to join the Regional Planning Commission. So, and it has my clear reading of this, it is a mandated program unless the local legislative body votes to expend the money. So I wouldn't think that it could be solely put in the budget specifically, because I don't know if your budget shows that the Regional Planning Commission dues are in the budget. It states that it's in the budget. So the legislative body, this is where it gets sticky, the legislative body has voted to accept that as a line item?
Nah, I don't think, I
No,
don't,
but it's voted on as a line or a by department budget.
yeah, I mean, there's certainly, but in the interest of transparency, and there's nothing nefarious about this, there is a separate line item within the planning board budget where that money is there entitled. So yes, it comes to us, yes, it goes through the budget committee. But in fairness, at town meeting, the average person would not know that because they're gonna vote on the planning board budget overall. We don't go down through every single line item within the planning board budget. So there's been nothing nefarious trying to cover it up, but I don't think that the average person attending town meeting would know that they were voting to send $4,200 to Lakeview Planning. So we can correct that. That's an easy fix.
Well, we do that during the public hearing for the budget committee.
Because what Wakefield and Brookfield did is we kept the line item open, but we put a dollar in. So when the budget came before the local legislative body, there's a dollar in it. We were gonna zero it out, but we said we'll just leave a dollar in it, it's easier to do that. So, I mean, this is probably just another issue, but it's a clarification on everything else we just spoke of.
Yeah.
So that's my
Okay.
comment.
Thank you. Connie, anything?
You asked for 91 on Green Mountain. How do you donate the money? To sewers?
Yeah, we have not made, as a board, we have not made a formal request of Green Mountain. We made a formal request of Freedom, which then they supplied us, but we have not made a formal request of Green Mountain. And I don't know that they would, I don't think they would be bound by it necessarily anyway, so,
Well, you mentioned it.
yeah. Yeah, we've not made a formal request. No. Maria, how's things at the library? Everything good?
Things are good. We're close tomorrow.
Ed,
Ed?
I have to make another comment about, I just thought of the Town of Freedom. I'm still unclear of how they created, as selectmen, a fund under a nonprofit status to be used to sue another town. I still don't, is it going to be challenged? Because that's something that seems a little against the law.
I thought the Conservation Committee did that.
Well, it depends on who you, their explanation, the first time I heard anything about a conservation fund was shortly before we actually asked them for copies of who donated. What had been advertised, what was being advertised by even Green Mountain Conservation on their website was that the Town of Freedom had established a non-profit fund for people to be able to donate to. It sounds like, in hindsight, that they created a fund through their Conservation Commission, which the statute on the conservation funds I'm a little familiar with, because we just had that little debacle with our own. They are allowed to expend money from their conservation fund independent of a town vote, but for very specific purposes. I didn't see anything in there about litigation, to be able to use that fund to turn around and sue another town. I think you raised a couple of really poignant things that people ought to think about. And this could be us going against somebody else, never mind, I mean, this is in the grand scheme of things, this is probably small potatoes. But you mean to tell me that somebody could come into this board and say, we want you to sue whoever, the town of Effingham, and we're going to give you all the money that you need to sue the town of Effingham? How can that possibly be legal, or how could it possibly be right? Right now, the three of us, I mean, we get compensated, if you will, a little. We make about $5,000 a year and all the aggravation you can stand. But this is a citizen government where people are willing to spend their time. I mean, many of our board members are not compensated at all. They're willing to spend their time to try to make their community a better place to live. How is it that somebody can come in and donate that money when they have no skin in the game? any decision that comes across this board, and I don't need to speak for these two, I'm sure they'll speak for themselves. I'm making the decision, not only as a selectman, I'm making the decision as a taxpayer. Do I want to expend my money, my tax money, for X, Y, or Z? This whole idea of donations being used to fund a lawsuit stands that whole concept on its head. Because I'm no longer making a decision about my tax money. I'm not making a decision as a taxpayer because somebody else is footing the bill. I don't think it's right, and if it is legal, it still doesn't make it right. I think it stands that whole process on its head. I think people would make very different decisions, maybe, because they were going to be funding it themselves and putting up their own money. I think the whole thing stinks the way it's done, and if it is legal, it doesn't make it right.
How much did the town of Ossipee, and this is taxpayer money, there are people that are, how many properties did you have to deed this year? For people who could not
I'm
pay.
gonna say 15.
So those 15 people are gonna lose their property because they couldn't pay their taxes. And now there's Ossipee residents' taxpayer money is being used to defend itself from a lawsuit from another town that's based on a nonprofit fund, but expended through an elected board.
Yeah.
I don't understand, well, I just don't understand it. If there's a-
Well,
Now-
I don't even know who I reported to. I mean, how do you even, is it a DRA? I don't know. I don't even know, it doesn't seem fair, and it also doesn't seem right. I mean, right now, I think they've spent a whole lot more money to pursue this than we have to defend it. But we have spent more than $5,000 of Ossipee tax money to defend ourselves from a lawsuit that was filed by the town of Freedom, but was funded by people other than the town of Freedom. I mean, this could be, again, $5,000 is small potatoes in a $5.5 million budget. But what if it were of a more substantial nature? What if it was, what if it was something that caused us to expend $25,000? Would that raise people's eyebrows? How about if it was $50,000? How about if we run out of our legal defense money for the year? I mean, these are potentially big issues.
Are any of the Freedom Selectmen members of the Green Mountain Conservation?
I have no idea.
Because even now you're dealing with conflict of
I
interest if they're voting.
have no idea.
I mean, if they wanted to sue you or sue the town, but it was done through the nonprofit and through Green Mountain Conservation, you can do that. But I just don't understand the whole part.
Nor do I, and I won't go into the details, and it won't be a posted meeting because
It's legal.
it's a legal matter, but tonight, we actually decided that we are instructing our attorney to set up a closed-door meeting between the Freedom Board of Selectmen, the Ossipee Board of Selectmen, their attorney, and our attorney, and see if we can't get to the bottom of what I think was beyond foolishness. And hopefully we can put it to bed.
Who came up with that idea to bring all those people together?
That'd be me.
We did.
Well, I commend that, because I think,
Get them all in one room and see if we can't put an end to what is a stupid.
and I wish that this would happen more often, instead of jumping to, the attorneys, because they're the ones that, no offense to the attorneys, but they're making the money. And the taxpayers are losing,
Yeah, oh.
because that's money.
So,
So-
we're gonna hopefully get that arranged.
Can the Conservation Commission just accept the money without having voted to accept, or is it
Who's conservation?
Freedom?
You-
Like
they
some
can-
$60,000.
The statute says that they can accept
Accept
donations
donations.
at all, but the donation has to be added to the budget. It still has to, that's why I mentioned.
No,
Well, that's what-
it really doesn't. There is a separate, the conservation fund is not, it's not a budgeted item. It is absolutely, actually controlled by the Conservation Commission, and they can expend money from that fund with no further oversight whatsoever.
Okay, well,
However, it says in the statute very specific things that they can do. Programs, acquiring land,
a study, maybe?
possibly, but there are specific items that they are allowed to do. I never saw in there anywhere near shape or form that it was to fund, to fund litigation against a neighboring community. I think that is stretching a lot.
Where's the oversight if the expenditure of funds, does anybody check to see if the expenditure of those funds that they use are going to create a tax burden in the future? Because I would think that if it's going to have a tax burden in the future, then you need oversight. I don't understand why there's no oversight to that money.
We went into this a little bit. Now, I don't want to litigate this whole thing, but with the recent issues that we had with our Conservation Commission, I did quite a bit of reading, and that statute does give them a great deal of power. Having said that, they are an appointed agency of the Board of Selectmen. So what we did, and the issue of the whole thing with donating this money to other people, was to say to them, that's not acceptable, and we've established a policy that that's not going to be acceptable. They then some of them chose to ignore that policy, and that was dealt with by removing those people from that
Because you're the appointing.
because they're not elected, they are appointed. So while there is some statutory language which gives them some leeway, it is still, I believe, up to the government about the oversight issue, comes back to the Board of Selectmen when it's an appointed board, to guide them in what it is and how you want them doing business. This was my whole thing from the get-go. Even though it's donated money, it is money which is ultimately, right now, that conservation fund is owned by the residents of this town. And the moment you start talking about public money, I think the degree to which you have to be accountable and transparent goes from here to here. And it wasn't happening. And so.
Okay, thank you.
It's a complicated issue.
Yes.
You said that this is a non-profit that they established.
Well, we don't know.
We don't,
That's the way it was being advertised, it was a nonprofit.
the first place you go, charitable trust.
If in fact they established a nonprofit.
Yeah, but if they advertised it as a nonprofit,
I don't think the town Freeman did. I was going by what was advertised on the Green Mountain website. I don't remember where else I saw it now, if it was in the papers or what, but either way, whether it was through a nonprofit or through a conservation fund, I still think it really turns the system upside down to have outside money funding lawsuits between one town and another. I think it just.
but the money was donated to the town of Freedom,
Correct.
earmarked for such and such.
Correct.
So, like you had said, who gave them permission?
Correct.
Every check was made out.
Yes.
To the town of Freeman. So.
Or again, charitable trust.
I don't think it starts there. My gut tells me that it's going to be an issue with DRA, because we are not allowed to expend any money whatsoever, that is not appropriated by town meeting. We are empowered by town meeting to accept gifts on behalf of the town. So the town of Freedom, if they have voted on that as we have, the town of Freedom would be authorized to receive those gifts. Where is their authorization to expend it? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Anything else? I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right. Thank you. I don't think they can do it. I don't think they can do it legally.
Wow.